How's it going, everybody? It's Spoiler Flame, and we are back with another FPL video. And today we're going to be taking a look at my take on a wildcard draft for game week 31. I do not have my wildcard, but some of these wildcard drafts look pretty good to me, and I'd be looking at a bunch of these assets for transfers in the future in order to get them into my team before they start hurting me in terms of FPL points, because I think Liverpool could potentially do quite well. There's some Wolves assets, some West Ham assets, some Leicester assets. There's a lot of different players out there for various different teams that look quite good on paper for the next few fixtures. If you haven't done so already, make sure to leave a like on the video if you are enjoying it. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here, and turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. And drop us a follow over on Twitter so you can keep up to date with all the different stuff that we're going on over there. Different posts, different retweets, all different, fantasy Premier League news, as well as videos when they go out, as well as when we go live over on Twitch for our preview and deadline streams, which we will be doing a preview and deadline stream every week as we normally do. And the next deadline stream will be in a pinned comment down below. That's going to be on Friday at 12:30 p.m. EST. So make sure to come check us out live for that. If you have any wildcard questions, be sure to be interactive in the chat as well, and there'll be a lot of helpful people on there as well. And hopefully we can get a good showing for that as well, because I'm interested to see what you guys are doing. I have one transfer, and I potentially could be doing some hits or something like that. So who knows? But yeah, so hopefully we can have a good showing for that. And I think game week 31 could be a defining week for some players this season. So without further ado, let's see what I have for the first draft. So the first draft that I have for you is a bit of a mixed bag. It's a 3-4-3, but it also has rotating goalkeepers, and I kind of didn't really know what name to give it, so I went with the goalkeepers draft. So a lot of people on the wildcard are probably going to be going to a set and forget goalkeeper, maybe like a Mendy, maybe a Leno, maybe even Allison or Ederson or somebody like that in their draft, where they know they can hang on to them for the rest of the season. Obviously, with Ederson's case, you would need a one-off for when they have a blank in 33. But you would have a goalkeeper where you could just set and forget it. Whereas this one rotates the already currently, very good FPL asset in Martinez with Leno. And they cover each other quite well. Martinez has, good fixtures versus West Brom still as a notable one. Whereas Leno also has some good fixtures. When Martinez plays Man City and Liverpool in 31 and 32, Leno has good fixtures versus, I believe it's Sheffield United and Fulham. And they cover each other quite beautifully in there overall. In the back line, we have Ruben Diaz, who's probably going to be a season keeper for the rest of the season at least. And he's somebody who you could just bench when they have a bad fixture. So if you think that he's not necessarily as good of a fixture, like next week in 32 versus Aston Villa, you could just put him on the bench. You could play the likes of Shaw, who has Burnley at home, Masuaku, who I believe has Newcastle. Cody would have a good fixture, and Azpilicueta would also have a good fixture as well. So you can pick and choose. This formation is quite flexible. Most cases you're going to be playing a 3-4-3 at a bare minimum. Maybe a 4-4-2 at times if you feel that Iheanacho is like out of favor or something like that. And that's where you can have a little bit of risk involved with this draft, because Iheanacho, is he somebody that's going to be a mainstay in the team when Maddison and Barnes are back? We don't know, but it's something that you can take a bit of a gamble. For the time being, he is a good player and is someone who's playing quite well. But the back line with, 5 defenders that can all play on their day is, quite solid back there. And then in midfield, you've gone with pretty much 3 power picks in there with Jota, Fernandez, and Son. Players that are doing quite well for their teams respectively across the whole season when they have played. Obviously, Jota's had some injuries. Son's just coming back off an injury, and Fernandez is kind of flattened off a little bit. But with the double game week in mind, Son is definitely somebody that probably is going to be locked in most people's teams. Jota as well, somebody who's been on fire. He started in the Champions League last night as well, so potentially could be starting in the Premier League, assuming that Liverpool are going to be going for that. And I think that they have to, now that they're 3-1 down versus Real Madrid and have a reverse fixture to play at Anfield. They still have to keep one eye on the Premier League so that they can potentially get a top 4 place, which I think they definitely can do. They have the squad to do it. The backline's a bit suspect, which Real Madrid kind of exploited, but Jota showed that he can provide as well as score in that game as well. Fernandez, somebody who's probably going to be a season keeper and will probably be moved to Mo Salah in 33. That is the plan with this potential draft that you would go for. If you have a little more squad value, you could do that in one move. Maybe some transfers elsewhere could potentially, do it in two moves. But most of you will have a lot better squad value than 103.7 million. Some of you may have Fernandez still when he was worth 11 million. I was only able to buy him at 11.5. So again, your squad value would definitely make this draft even better than what it already is. And then we have rotating midfielders in Neto and Rafinha. So for the next three fixtures, Rafinhas aren't great, but Netos are fantastic. So basically, you could play Neto for the next like 3 or 4 games, and then you could just play Rafinha and just bench the other one. You know they're both going to start. You know they're both going to get points for their team when you want them to play, and you could just play them in their best fixtures, which is exactly what the point of that part is. But for the most part, you're going to be playing 4 midfielders. And even if, let's say, Jota gets benched and doesn't come on for whatever reason, you still have the other one as a backup, as a worst-case scenario. And then the front three, no surprises there. Pretty straightforward. Vardy and Kane over the next few are very good. Kane, even after the Carabao Cup fixture, has Leeds and Sheffield United. 2 very, good fixtures on paper. And potentially they're going to have to win those sorts of games because they need to also be vying for a top 4 place. If they don't, they're not going to be in the Champions League, basically. They have no avenue in regards to the Europa League as they are out of that. And I think they definitely need to be pushing for that number 4 spot. And Jamie Vardy and Iheanacho, a good double up for Leicester's next upcoming fixtures. West Ham's a bit rough this week, but a sea of green up and until the end of game week 35. So I think those two on the double up could be quite good as well. Whether Iheanacho will keep his place, he's in there as a bit of a risk. Same with the likes of Masuaku as an example. But the rest of them looking pretty stable, pretty solid for the rest of the season. Now, this draft is something that's a slightly different. It's going triple Liverpool, but I've dubbed it basically the no Bruno Fernandes draft. So basically, the idea of this is that you don't have Bruno Fernandes. You go on Liverpool quite early. You go with a bit more of it would be technically a differential in that, Liverpool haven't been performing as well as what they would have for, like they did last season. Salah's still ticking in along with the goals. Jota is as well when he's fit and available. And Trent's starting to show some form, although he had a bit of a mare versus Real Madrid in the Champions League last night, potentially being at fault for the first 2 goals that they conceded. So it's a bit interesting on that front. But I think the Premier League fixtures definitely warrant some Liverpool coverage, if you want to use that term, for the rest of the season. I mean, the only real tough fixture that they have left is basically Man United. They got rid of one of them, which was Arsenal, and they kind of handily beat them. And, United, it's typically going to be a close affair. Not really much to call there, and you can jump on Liverpool early. Salah historically hasn't done well versus United, but I think that the rest of the fixtures definitely warrant him being in. And you can always, get a little bit of extra funds or rearrange it in like 36 to get rid of Son and Vardy. And you could bring Bruno back in and bring in the likes of, let's say, Bamford or an Antonio, assuming they're fit and available in the front line, so that you can have Bruno for the last few games of the season where they play Leicester, Fulham, and Wolves. But in terms of the back line, we've gone fairly cheap in the back line. Not too cheap. Obviously, we have, Alexander-Arnold and Shaw as a premium and mid-price defenders. And then we've gone with some pretty reasonable picks. Antonio Rudiger, I think, will maintain his place back in the Chelsea line, especially when, Kurt Zouma just wasn't at the races, basically, versus West Brom, especially when they went down to 10 men. But even before that, there were signs where it was a bit shaky. Dawson as well, someone who, he can score a set-piece goal, but he's just a very cheap West Ham defender. You can also go for the likes of Masuaku. If you have a little bit extra cash, you can go for Cresswell, who I think is probably the best pick overall. Connor Cody as well, someone who's just going to be solid. He's going to play every game for Wolves, and they have really good fixtures as well. And in goal, we've actually gone for technically 2 rotating goalkeepers, but I think Schmeichel is somebody who you could set and forget for the rest of the season, and you could sub him out, or transfer him out rather, for another goalkeeper in 36 when the fixtures get tough. Let's say for, maybe an Ederson for the final 3 games of the season, or whoever that may be. And then you have a backup of Forster, who is starting at the moment as well, but you're going to play Schmeichel pretty much every game up until and including game week 35. And in midfield, we've gone with like a similar structure as well. So basically, Salah's just in for Bruno Fernandes, and you have Son for the double. You have Jota, you have Neto, and Rafinha as like the rotating midfielders, as it were, and the same front three. So, and it turns out it's the same squad value as well, 103.7 million. Again, that's going to vary from team to team depending on who you got in at certain points during the season. But I think triple Liverpool could definitely be a differential going into game week 31 onwards. Most people are probably going to be getting in the Liverpool assets from game week 32 when they play Leeds, and then they play Newcastle in 33. They'll play United in 34, and then they have a sea of green again from 35 until the end of the season. But if you can get on them early, I think they can definitely hurt Leeds. They can definitely hurt Aston Villa as well. Aston Villa, if they make mistakes like they did versus Fulham, Liverpool would definitely be there to punish them. So be interesting to see how that one pans out. And they are starting to get some players back. Fabinho back in midfield is looking great. They finally have a centre-back partnership that is, serviceable, as it were. And with Liverpool having the majority of the ball in the Premier League, against the likes of Real Madrid, they're going to retain the ball a little bit more. But Liverpool being able to retain the ball a lot more, that should definitely help them out in the Premier League versus these weaker oppositions. That has been where they have struggled, but they have looking and have been looking a lot better when they have the ball in possession, basically in the final third, and not being able to break teams down. They've been definitely improving on that, and they showed that during the Arsenal game as well, who is technically a much stiffer opposition and a big six team. So I expect them to definitely, improve and vie for that top four spot for the run-in for this the remaining game weeks. And I think a double up, especially in Liverpool attack, Salah and Jota just seem to be no-brainers for me, and I pretty much included them in all three drafts, and I think that they could do well for the rest of the season. Now, this one I actually can't do personally with my own team. It has a squad value of 104.4 million. I'd be 0.6 short on that because my squad value isn't as good as some of you guys' teams. And I think that it is a very good draft if you can step up to something like this. I dubbed it the Fab Four draft, where we have Fernandes, Salah, Vardy, and Kane all in the same draft with Son, with two rotating midfielders and a decent enough back line and basically a set and forget goalkeeper. So let's start down the back there. So Mendy, this could be, any goalkeeper really that is, has a good set of fixtures. Mendy, Schmeichel, even if you had the likes of Emi Martinez in there, I think he's not terrible. Obviously his next two aren't great, but you could potentially get away with it. You could also, if you had the likes of Martinez with Forster, you could play Forster for the next two, as he does play Spurs in 33, I believe, no, 32 rather, and he plays West Brom in 31. So those are two, you would say decent enough fixtures for a goalkeeper, where you could just bench Martinez and then keep him for the remaining 5 or so fixtures as the mainstay in goal. And he would potentially, get you the points, as he has West Brom, I believe, in 34. So potentially a clean sheet there. The back line is basically cheap with one premium defender. I think a lot of people are potentially going to be looking for that. I think Alexander-Arnold, Rudiger, Cody, I think are going to be in a lot of people's drafts. And I think that it is quite warranted. I think Trent has improved his attacking output. Liverpool in the Premier League at least have, sewn up their defense a little bit, and they've been getting back to what they can potentially do. Obviously, they still have some weaknesses and vulnerabilities, which Real Madrid have, basically exploited in their Champions League fixture last night. But I think that Trent's attacking output and set piece threat definitely warrants having him and as an option for the remaining fixtures, especially with Liverpool's run. Rudiger, we touched on in the previous draft. He's going to maintain his place, in my opinion. Masuaku, someone who's cheap, who's come back in. He's basically playing a left-sided attacker, and 4.3 million could be quite good. Cody's going to play every game, as we mentioned, and Mitchell's just there because he's just going to be bench fodder, and it's very cheap and allows us to basically put money elsewhere. And in midfield, we have Fernandes, Son, and Salah, 3 premiums, as it were. Son necessarily isn't a premium, being 10 million or higher, but he is for the effective few game weeks that he has, that he's going to have good fixtures. So the double in 32, Sheffield United and Leeds after the Carabao Cup final in 33. And then we have the rotating midfielders as well with Neto and Saka. So you could play a 3-5-2 in the system. So you basically play Trent, You play Rudiger and Cody, and Masuaku can come in when he has a better fixture. If you feel that he's better suited for Neto or Saka, which they both have pretty good fixtures in the next few, he could potentially cover them later on as well, because West Ham's fixtures get better from 34 onwards. And then up front, you have the two mainstays, Vardy and Kane, with Davies kind of just being a bench fodder player who occasionally will get you a point from every now and again. But if you're using him, then it's not really going to be working out too well, which is why we have starters in pretty much every other position. Kane's going to start, Vardy's going to start, Fernandes, Son, Salah, Saka, Neto, when fit, will start. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Rudiger, and Cody will start when they are fit and available as well. And Masuaku is somebody who is coming back into the fold as well. And then you have Mendy in goal, who you can trade out later when Chelsea's fixtures turn. I believe it's in 34 or 35 when they play, I believe it's Man City they still have yet to play. So you can always trade him out for a different goalkeeper. Fabianski's one who you can actually downgrade to, who has great fixtures from 35 onwards. So could be quite good there as well. In most cases, you're going to be playing, like I said, a 3-5-2. You can play a 4-4-2 if you wanted to. Like, let's say Saka or Neto's fixture isn't great. Even Neto's next 4 is quite good. Saka's next couple are quite good. If you just feel that, maybe he's going to be, like Saka as an example has been benched just because of his recent fitness issues, you could bring in the likes of Masuaku or Cody in there and be perfectly fine. And overall, it provides a lot of flexibility for the captaincy as well. So Vardy's next few are good. Kane or Son in the double in 32 is good. Fernandes for, Burnley at home, Leeds away. Salah for Newcastle in 33 looks to be quite good. And overall, if you have a little bit extra funds, you can obviously boost the likes of Neto or Saka up to Jota as well. I know a lot of people have ridiculous squad values, and that would allow you to do that as well, which would definitely secure the 3-5-2 formation using this like Fab 4 style of system that we have here. And I think this could be a great draft. And the only real issues I see with it is potentially the bench is a bit light, but overall I think for the run-in for the season you should be okay. And then you have to basically book in a transfer for a goalkeeper swap later on when Mendy's fixtures turn. That would be the only other criticism I would have of the draft. But yeah, I like this draft. I like the other two as well. I wish I had my wildcard draft, because I'm gonna have to be getting some of these players in, and I'm running out of transfers to do that. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the wildcard drafts for Game Week 31. And that's going to do it for our Game Week 31 wildcard drafts. If you haven't done so already and you are enjoying the videos, make sure to leave a like on it. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe. It's free to do. Go hit the button right now. It greatly helps out the channel, as well as turn those notification bells on so you get more videos like this one as soon as they are readily available. And drop us a follow over on Twitter so you can see all the different FPL news and posts that we do over there. And give us a follow over on Twitch so that you can see when we go live for our preview and deadline streams. We will be doing a deadline stream on Friday, 1 hour before the FPL deadline at 12:30 p.m. EST. There'll be a pinned comment down below with more information on that as well as the link. It's PilotFlame226 on all platforms. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.